truly afraid for her life. Yet the scars of such volatility lingered, casting a long shadow over her family worksly tempestuous, now revealed itself as dangerously unpredictable. As the years wore on, the lives of those entwined with Aew Stachio unfolded with an unsettling inevitability. Chantal, despite the tumultuous affair, continued to work at the hotel, raising her daughters with a quiet resilience. Meanwhile, Aew Stachio's marriage deteriorated further, each argument carving deeper fissures into the foundation of his relationship with Joanne. The community of Shikudami, nestled within the Saguenay metropolitan area, bore witness to these lives intersecting, its quiet streets echoing the whispers of secrets and unspoken fears. It was within this backdrop that Marilyn Levesque grew up, her childhood a tapestry woven with both warmth and hardship. Despite the fractured beginnings, Marilyn's spirit remained indomitable. Her move to Quebec City at 17 marked a new chapter, a pursuit of dreams that seemed tantalizingly within reach. Yet, the past has a way of weaving itself into the present, and the threads of Aew Stachio's turbulent life soon intersected with Marilyn's. As the investigation into her tragic death unfolded, the narrative of a life cut short emerged, revealing the fragility of dreams and the stark reality of violence. Forensic analyses painted a grim picture, each stab wound a testament to the violence that befell Marilyn. The community's outrage grew, a collective voice demanding to know how such brutality could occur. The investigation eventually led to Aew Stachio, whose past transgressions now loomed large, casting him as a figure of suspicion. In the quiet corridors of justice, questions lingered. How do we reconcile the dreams of a young woman with the violence that extinguished them? What responsibility do we bear to foresee and prevent such tragedies? As the community grappled with these questions, the story of Marilyn Levesque became a haunting reminder of the vulnerabilities that exist within us all, and the enduring quest for justice and understanding in a world where the past is never truly past. In the quiet expanse of a suburban neighborhood, a tale of love, betrayal, and tragedy unfolded, woven intricately into the fabric of everyday life. Aew Stachio, once perceived as a diligent father, found himself ensnared in the complexities of human relationships. His journey from a respected family man to a tragic figure is as compelling as it is heartbreaking. Aew Stachio was known for his dedication to his work, often spending long, arduous hours away from home. Despite his absences, he was regarded as a good father. Yet the demands of his profession created a chasm within his family life, a void that destiny would soon fill with unforeseen consequences. It was during this period of professional strain that Aew Stachio met Chantal Destunes. The allure of a new relationship quickly grew into a passionate affair, leading him to leave his partner Joanne and their 3 children. With Chantal, life initially seemed idyllic. They married swiftly, and Aew Stachio embraced the new family dynamic, forming bonds with Chantal's 2 daughters. Together, they crafted memories in the simple joys of weekends spent at movies and ice rinks. However, as swiftly as their life together had blossomed, it began to wither under the weight of underlying tensions. Aew Stachio's work commitments intensified, consuming over 60 hours of his week. The strain was palpable, and he confided in his supervisors a desire to resign by the end of the year, seeking relief from the mounting pressure. Yet he kept silent about the turmoil brewing at home. The relationship between Aew Stachio and Chantal became increasingly fraught with jealousy and possessiveness. Arguments erupted frequently, sometimes escalating to verbal and physical confrontations. Friends noted Aew Stachio's raised voice during disputes, while Chantal's retaliations were equally intense, marked by insults and occasional slaps. The domestic discord simmered beneath the surface, threatening to erupt. On the morning of October 21st, 2004, the simmering tensions reached a tragic crescendo. After a night shift at the hotel, Aew Stachio and Chantal returned home, their unresolved argument hanging heavily in the air. The household was quiet, with Chantal's daughters still asleep under the watchful care of their babysitter, Joni Hyun. As dawn broke, Joni sensed the lingering discord and departed, leaving behind an atmosphere charged with unspoken conflict. The morning unfolded with a haunting normalcy. Chantal's daughters bid farewell to their mother, unaware that this would be their final goodbye. As the clock ticked towards the afternoon, Aew Stachio arrived at the home of his ex-wife, Joanne LaFrance. In an act that would later be understood as foreboding, he handed over all his cash savings. It was then that he made the fateful call to the police, confessing to the unthinkable. At 1:29 in the afternoon, law enforcement officers arrived at Joanne's residence, where Aew Stachio surrendered peacefully. He implored them to reach Chantal's home before her daughters returned from school, sparing them the trauma of discovering their mother's fate. Inside Chantal's bedroom, officers discovered a scene of unspeakable violence. Her lifeless body lay amidst a tableau of blood-stained knives and a broken hammer, instruments of a brutal end. The autopsy would later reveal the extent of her suffering: multiple blows from the hammer and several stab wounds. This harrowing account of passion turned deadly leaves us to ponder the fragile nature of human relationships. It serves as a stark reminder of how swiftly love can transform into tragedy, urging us to reflect on the delicate balance of emotions that bind us together and the destructive forces that can tear us apart. The echo of the hammer's impact reverberated through the room, a chilling testament to the violence that had unfolded. The force was so intense that the handle fractured, leaving behind a haunting symbol of broken lives and shattered promises. This was the world of Giustio Gallet, a man whose past was marred by a history of brutality and heartache. In the year 2006, a jury found Giustio Gallet guilty of second-degree murder. He confessed to taking the life of Chantal, his second wife, driven by fury when she declared her intention to leave him. For this crime, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 15 years. Gallet's violent tendencies were not a new revelation. Nearly a decade earlier, in 1997, he had served a brief stint in jail for assaulting his first wife, Joanne. The pattern was clear: a trail of abuse that painted a grim portrait of a man unable to control his destructive impulses. Yet, despite this history, in March of 2019, the parole board deemed him rehabilitated enough to re-enter society. Their assessment that his risk of reoffending was minimal led to his release, albeit under strict conditions. Gallet was permitted supervised contact with women, but was forbidden from engaging in romantic relationships. His parole officer meticulously outlined a plan that delineated the boundaries of his interactions. Among the peculiar allowances was the monthly visit to an erotic massage parlor, ostensibly to meet his sexual needs without the complications of emotional entanglements. Gallet's adherence to the parole conditions was tenuous at best. The guidelines stipulated a curfew from 10 at night to 8 in the morning, with exceptions only for attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. However, his self-discipline was almost non-existent. Instead of adhering to the prescribed monthly visits, Gallet frequented the massage parlor several times a week. His release. During one of his habitual visits, Gallet crossed paths with Marilyn Levesque, a 22-year-old who worked at the parlor. Marilyn's journey into this line of work was shadowed by a complex past. Raised in a tumultuous environment, she spent much of her childhood navigating the instability of foster care. To those who knew her, Marilyn was a sensitive soul, often veiling the details of her profession behind humor or silence. Her family was aware of her occupation, though she seldom discussed it earnestly. The allure of substantial earnings in a short span of time made it difficult for her to abandon the profession, despite the stigma it carried. Marilyn's personal life was no secret to those closest to her. Her boyfriend and friends were fully aware of her work, accepting it as a reality of her circumstances. Despite the distance, working in Quebec City, roughly 100 miles from her home, her boyfriend did not object to her job, understanding the financial necessity behind her choice. Galet's frequent visits to the massage parlor soon became a cause for concern. Despite his assurances to the parole board that he was a reformed individual, his actions betrayed a different truth. His interactions with the female employees grew increasingly aggressive, culminating in his eventual banishment from the establishment. The facade of rehabilitation crumbled, revealing the persistent menace beneath. The story of Aew Stachio and Marilyn Levesque intertwines themes of redemption and relapse, the struggle between past demons and the hope for a better future. It is a narrative that compels us to question the nature of change and the weight of one's history. In the shadows of human behavior, we find echoes of choices made and paths taken, each shaping the course of lives intertwined by fate. The tale unfolds in a world where shadows of the past often remain hidden beneath the veneer of normalcy. In an unassuming establishment, no one suspected that among them was a man whose history was stained with blood, a convicted murderer who had once been stripped of freedom for the heinous act of killing his own wife. By the late summer of 2019, the veil of secrecy began to unravel. It emerged that this man had transgressed again, assaulting multiple women at a massage parlor. In response, the parole board decreed that he was forbidden from entering any establishment offering erotic massages. A breach of this mandate would surely see him return to the confines of a cell. Yet, amidst these restrictions, the man known as Galis found himself irresistibly drawn to a woman named Marilyn. His desire to remain in her presence led him to circumvent the imposed boundaries. Offering her 1,300 Canadian dollars, he proposed a clandestine meeting in a hotel, away from prying eyes. Marilyn consented, and their first encounter outside the confines of the massage parlor bore no semblance of the extraordinary. Galis, entangled in his emotions, began to confide in Marilyn, revealing the chasm left by his late wife, a void he had mourned for 15 years. What he withheld was the grim truth that he had been the architect of her demise. As time slipped by, Galis became ensnared in a web of his own making, convinced that Marilyn was slipping away. His mind spiraled into a vortex of anxiety and jealousy, consumed by the thought of her rejection. In a desperate bid to reclaim her attention, he orchestrated another meeting on the 22nd of January, 2020. Marilyn, wary of hotel rendezvous due to the absence of security personnel, expressed her reluctance to her boyfriend. She preferred the safety of the massage parlor, where watchful eyes could intervene if danger loomed. Nonetheless, Galis's offer of $2,000 swayed her decision, and she agreed to meet him once more. As dusk settled over Quebec, Galis and Marilyn were seen dining together in a hotel restaurant. Hours later, they retreated to their room. What transpired there remains shrouded in darkness, but by 11:35 p.m., Galis walked into a police station, echoing a confession he had made once before in 2004, another life taken by his hand. Police raced to the hotel, clinging to the hope that Marilyn might yet be saved. Alas, their efforts were in vain. The autopsy revealed a brutal end, 57 stab wounds marking the tragic conclusion of her life. In the aftermath, investigators pieced together the grim narrative. Galis had lingered in a bar for 2 hours post-murder, discarding the murder weapon and Marilyn's phone before surrendering to authorities. The brutality of the crime was staggering, but the identity of the perpetrator sent shockwaves through the public consciousness. How could a man, once convicted of murder, roam free on parole, only to claim another life? Outrage rippled across the nation, demanding accountability. Canada's public safety minister, Bill Blair, offered condolences to Marilyn's bereaved family, acknowledging that her death was a preventable tragedy. Quebec's Justice Minister, Sonia Labelle, questioned the mechanisms that allowed Gayless's release, casting doubt on the adequacy of parole officer training in risk assessment. As the inquiry deepened, the call for a thorough investigation resounded, seeking to unravel the failures that culminated in such a catastrophic breach of justice. The narrative serves as a stark reminder of the fragile balance between redemption and recidivism, where the past can cast long shadows over the present. It implores us to reflect on the systems designed to protect and the vigilance required to safeguard the sanctity of life. In the shadowy corridors of the Canadian justice system, a tragedy unfolded that would cast a long and haunting shadow over the processes meant to protect society. The case of Marilyn's untimely death at the hands of Aew Stachio exposed significant failures within the parole board's oversight and case management. Investigations revealed a troubling pattern of oversight gaps and insufficient supervision that culminated in a preventable tragedy. The Commissioner of the Correctional Service of Canada lamented Marilyn's death as a profound tragedy, vowing that corrective measures would be implemented to avert similar occurrences in the future. Yet, despite these public assurances, the systemic changes promised seemed more cosmetic than substantive. The reshuffling of parole board members and additional training sessions, while seemingly proactive, did little to mitigate the stark reality of a life lost. For Marilyn's family, no amount of compensation or legal settlements could fill the void left by her absence. The settlement reached with the government, cloaked in confidentiality, served as a reminder of the complexities and frustrations inherent in seeking justice. Criticism directed at Marilyn's professional life was both unwarranted and irrelevant, detracting from the systemic lapses that allowed a deep. Initially charged with second-degree murder, the revelation of Gayless's premeditated intent led to an elevation of charges to first-degree murder. His eventual admission of guilt, coupled with the chilling details of his motive, jealousy stemming from unreciprocated feelings, painted a grim picture of obsession turned lethal. In February of 2020, Gayless was unequivocally found guilty and condemned to life imprisonment. This time, the possibility of parole was extended to 25 years, a stark departure from his previous opportunity for release after 15. As the justice system grapples with the consequences of its failures, the haunting question remains: will Gayless ever walk free again at the age of 76? The case serves as a somber reminder of the profound responsibility borne by those whose decisions wield the power to alter lives irrevocably. In the quiet aftermath, one can only hope that the lessons learned will inspire a more vigilant and conscientious approach to justice, ensuring that the echoes of Marilyn's story resonate with enduring impact.